Hello, welcome to my channel. Like most people, every year I make a goal in how many books I'm going to read that year. And I never make it. I think that this happens for a couple of reasons. The first thing is that I read a book and then I stop reading and I'm like, well, if I read 2 books next month, then I'll still meet my goal. And then a little more time passes and then I'm like, well, if I read 3 books next month, then I'll still meet my goal. And then I end up I just stop. Second thing that happens is oftentimes after I'm done reading a book, in particular if I really like it, it's hard for me to find that next book. It's either the cover isn't right or the opening line isn't right or it's not something I'm in the mood for. And I'm not in the mood for it because I'm still thinking about the book that I just read. And then I just stop looking. This year hopefully will be different. I have a couple of changes. 1, I'm doing videos about it. Hopefully it'll make me read more. 2, I don't have a goal. There is absolutely no goal in mind for how many books I'm going to read. So quite honestly, I don't know what the name of this video is. It could be books I read in January. It could be books I read in 2022 if I only got a couple of books done. We'll see. The third thing that I'm going to do differently is I am only going to read books that are recommended to me. So I'll have a theme. You know, books that are recommended by YouTubers or books that are recommended by co-workers or whatever. I don't know where I'll get my recommendations. But if I get recommendations, then I'll have to buy the books in advance. So I have to have 4 recommendations at least per video or per person, per source. I don't know. My first recommendations are from my honey, Matt. The first book is Recursion by Blake Crouch. The next book he's recommending is by Roald Dahl, Matilda. Next is by Sarah Vowell, Assassination Vacation. And the book I'm going to start with is Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's by Seth Grahame-Smith. So I've seen this movie and I really enjoyed the movie. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who enjoyed this movie. I do not think it got very good reviews. Matt had read the book prior to seeing the movie and he enjoyed the book. And because I liked the movie, he said, try it. Let's begin by judging the book by its cover. It looks like he did a book called Pride and Prejudice Zombies. The LA Times said, an original vampire tale with humor, heart, bite, a rare find indeed. Indiana, 1818, in a one-room cabin, 9-year-old Abraham Lincoln kneels at his mother's bedside. My baby boy, she whispers before dying. Only later will the grieving Abe learn that his mother's fatal affliction was actually the work of a vampire.
That's me.
So, why did you recommend Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter to me?
Because it's such a funny and spooky book.
So this book was written in 2011. So I'm going to read it. I'll get back to you and let you know what I thought.
Good.
Better be good.
I hope you like it.
I finished this book last night and it wasn't very good. Like, I'm not going to read this book again and I will probably forget that I did read this book in about a month. One thing the book did do was I think it taught me what it means to have a book that's character-driven or plot-driven. And I think it's because this has neither. I was thinking about the characters. Nothing happens to them. Nothing. And Abraham Lincoln is kind of a dick. Like, nobody grows, nobody changes, nobody has any realizations, no character in this moves at all. And the way every character is written is surface. It's who they are, what their name is, and what their job is. As far as plot goes, nothing really happens there either. The only things that actually happen are U.S. history, and it's a book about vampires. This 300 and something page book goes over Abraham Lincoln's life from birth to death. This thing. Why? Around page 215, 220, something like that, I found myself going, oh, this is interesting. And then I realized that the reason it was interesting is because the author was talking about a Supreme Court case around slavery. Well, that's just U.S. history. That isn't a book about vampires. The last, I think, 100 pages or so, maybe 75, are all about the Civil War. And there's no vampires in it. Abraham Lincoln isn't fighting vampires in the Civil War. It's just how the Civil War played out. I feel like Seth Grahame-Smith really wanted to write a book about Abraham Lincoln, and for some reason added a couple vampires here and there. It was completely forgettable because nothing sucks you in. Every part of this book is surface. I did not like this. 3 stars. Thank you for teaching me what plot-driven and character-driven narratives are, though, because you lacked both. But I'm sorry, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, you get a 3. So I think that the next book I'm going to read is Matilda. Just the cover is adorable. Little Matilda sitting there reading books. It says, Roald Dahl, Matilda, illustrated by Quentin Blake. I have watched this book, so I have watched this book in movie form, so I know the story for the most part. It's also very easy reading. It has adorable little drawings in it. Let's see how Matilda goes. Okay, I read Matilda. This is such a sweet book. I really, really enjoyed it. It was an easy read for me. It didn't take too much time. I'm sure someone else could have read it faster than I did. Matilda is a little girl whose parents are not very nice to her, and she figures out a way to get revenge on them. In doing so, she's sent to school where she has this terrible headmistress called Mrs. Trunchbull, and she has a wonderful teacher called Miss Honey. And it's about her dealing with all these relationships. Something I thought was really sweet about it was her friendship with Miss Honey. I'm going to try to find this one passage where he describes who Miss Honey is, and it's just such great writing. She seemed to understand totally the bewilderment and fear that so often overwhelms young children who, for the first time in their lives, are herded into a classroom and told to obey orders. There's so much in that sentence. One, it talks about Miss Honey and how kind she is, but also how scared a 5-year-old must be going into class. It's such a well-written book. I give Matilda 4.5 stars. The only reason I took off the other half is when I'm deciding on my stars, I kind of use a couple criteria. 1, would I read it again? 2, do I think about it often? Like, is it something that resonates with me for an extended period of time, or something maybe that I think about in the future? And Matilda is something, like, I might pick this up again if I was going on, like, a trip. This is a great book to read on a plane. You know, it's short, it's sweet, it's kind. I just don't know if I'm going to reference this book a whole bunch in the future. 4.5 stars for Matilda. But for my last 2 books, I have Recursion and Assassination Vacation. I'm going to do Assassination Vacation because I think that I'm going to like Recursion better than Assassination Vacation. So I want to end with this book. I don't know if it's true, but I think so. Let's judge Assassination Vacation by its cover. So the front. Guess who wrote this book? I will hardly ever pick up a book where the author is so giant and the name of the book is so tiny. Why is the title so small compared to the author? It just feels arrogant. I don't know. The top one says, Vowell is and will continue to be one of the more important voices of her generation. What a cliche thing to say. San Francisco Chronicle. Come on. Okay, so let's read this book. I don't know. I feel like I'm going into it with a little bit of a frustration, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. I have several times in the past, so let's see. Let's start this book. Okay, so it's only been a day. I am on page 37, and I'm gonna stop. I can't with this book right now. Every paragraph, almost every sentence at the end has some quip or some one-liner or some snazzy little sentence. Reading this book felt like I was reading the beginning of Juno, the movie Juno. So if you haven't seen the movie Juno, in the beginning, it's a bunch of fast quips and one-liners and told with a very straight face, as if this is seriously the way people talk. And when you're watching the beginning of Juno, you're just like, oh, people don't talk like this. This is not real. And that's how this book feels. In Juno, the characters develop and this really great story is told, and in this book, I can't even get to that part. I'm gonna stop reading this book. I can't read it anymore. It's so disjointed. She will go from talking about Abraham Lincoln to talking about his friend to talking about her friend in the current, or her friend more recently, she took him to see something, he didn't like it, and now currently they refer to that, and now let's go back to Lincoln. And it's all within a few paragraphs. I can't follow what she's saying. I'm not going to read this book anymore. I'm sorry, I'm on page 37, and for right now, I'm going to remain on page 37. Sorry, Sarah Vowell. I may go back to it later. I probably will. Right now, I can't. Let's go on to Recursion. I feel like I'm going to like this book. I don't know if I will. My very favorite genre of book is dystopian. I really like dystopian books. And I don't know that this is dystopian, but let's judge it by its cover, shall we? So on the front, it says it's a New York Times bestseller. Recursion, Blake Couch, equal time for both author or title and author, and the title's at the top. And it looks like a figure 8 or maybe an infinity symbol. And there's some bent buildings around it. Recursion is a relentlessly paced, intricately plotted tale about time, identity, and memory, and the rare thriller that will astonish you not just once, but again and again. Ooh. I don't know. This is my type of book. I like science fiction. I like books that make you think about another form of reality. I like dystopian. I don't know. It is 326 pages. All right, let me get started. I'm back. I was right. I love this book. It's really, really good. I don't even know where to start. So for anyone who hasn't read this book, I'm going to try to be incredibly vague because I hope people read this book. It's very, very, very good. It is incredibly fast-paced. There's so much happening in this book. I know I keep comparing books to movies. This reminds me of The Matrix, not in content. It isn't like The Matrix. Like, I don't want you to think you're reading that type of a book. You're not. But when I watched The Matrix, it made me think, oh wow, what an incredible way to look at something. You know, in The Matrix, we were looking at our lives and what they are and what happens with our lives. This isn't like that. Like the back says, it's more about time and things like that. But the way the story's told is so interesting. It's like, it's such a clever way of thinking about this topic. Matt, my lifelong honey, gets very frustrated because I call the endings of so many things. For folks who watch Squid Games, before the one episode that you know what I'm talking about, I called the ending and I was right. And I could not do that with this book. Over and over, I couldn't even imagine what was coming up. I couldn't imagine how they were going to resolve something. I couldn't imagine what was going to happen. And when it happened, I was like, oh, of course, that's right. That's so cool. This is such an action-packed book. So when I got to page 151, around there, so almost exactly half, I was reading at night and I ended up the next day reading the rest of the book, which is something I don't do. I didn't work on anything. I didn't work. I sat and I read a book. I'm going to give this book 4.75 stars. The reason that I'm not giving it the full 5, because I liked this book. The 4.7 comes from, I would love to read this book again. I am sure that there are things that I missed because there is so much in this book. There are so many ideas, so many concepts, so many thought-provoking questions in this book that I'm sure I missed something. When I wasn't reading this book, I was thinking about it. So I was thinking either about these thought-provoking questions, so I was contemplating what they are, what they mean, what's this about, but then I was also thinking, oh my god, I wonder what's going to happen. It's so good. There's so much action in this book, so much plot. It's just moving all the time. So that's where the 4.75 comes from. The minus 0.25 comes from two things. The first thing is, at the end of the book, there's something that's happening that happens often. And for me, it just happened too many times. It became a little redundant. The second thing is, I'm going to try very hard to say this without giving away anything. But there's a character in here, the Helena. She's written incredibly well. She's very strong. She's a woman who can do things. And I feel like because she was written so well and as such a strong woman and such a strong character, that I was disappointed at how she was written at the end. That's a good way to say it. I was just disappointed at how she was written at the end. Let's read some of these reviews. Wildly entertaining, absolutely, action-packed, and brilliantly unique, 100%. A profound thriller masterfully blends science and intrigue into the experience of what it means to be deeply human. That one's from Newsweek. Absolutely. Oh, these folks write so much better than I speak. Crouch has sketched out the rules for a new reality. That's NPR. Very good. Gloriously twisted, a heady campfire tale of novels. Oh, this is why they should describe it, not me. I guess they do. I'm not doing a great job compared to them. Read it. You should read this book. Absolutely read this book. It's really, really, really good. I highly recommend it. So these are the books that I read in January. Well, sort of. I feel pretty happy. So in 2021, I read a total of 6 books, and I've already read 3 in January. So for my next video, I decided that what I want to do is I'm going to read graphic novels. I've never read a graphic novel. I'm very excited for it. So if you want to see me read some graphic novels, stay tuned and I will post that video next month. And I'm really excited to get started on those. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Like and subscribe. Read more books. I don't know.